Hello YouTube, my name is Daniel and welcome to another edition of Education 180. You may be wondering why I'm sitting here making this YouTube video for you. Well, here's the deal. Today we'll be talking about the logical reasoning module of the LSAT. In particular, we'll be talking about the third section called weakening the argument. When you are writing the LSAT, it will be common for you to encounter weaken the argument question stems. Here are some common question stems that you may encounter when doing weakening the argument type questions. Please take a moment to read through the following question stems. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. We will continue. So there are two ways that you can weaken an argument. The first way is if the statement breaks down a central piece of evidence. And the second way is if the statement attacks the validity of any of the author's assumptions. Your job is to eliminate incorrect answers and identify the correct answer. Look at each answer choice and ask yourself whether it contains extraneous information. If the answer is no, then eliminate. An answer choice that does not contain extraneous information is redundant and therefore cannot help weaken the argument. If yes, then continue to the second test. Ask yourself whether the answer choice is relevant to the argument. If no, then eliminate. If yes, then you have found the correct answer. So let's take a look at weaken the argument sample question 1. Please take a moment to read through the following question. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. We will continue. So let's take a look at the question together. So for the first part, we'll look at the first part here. Before mass production, automobiles could be purchased only as expensive custom models. When Henry Ford applied mass production to automobiles with the Model T in 1908, the automobiles produced became significantly less expensive than custom models. So let's take a look at the second part now. The public's demand for automobiles in the first year after the application of mass production was many times greater than the demand had been for previous custom models. This increase demonstrates that there is a dramatic jump in the number of people who learned how to drive in the years after automakers first started mass producing automobiles. In other words, more people are getting their driver's license. So the part that you want to focus on is the conclusion, which is basically stating that after the increase of sales in cars, more people must have been driving, therefore there's an increase in driver's licenses. So the conclusion is in red. So if we can anticipate what's coming next in the question, we want to weaken the basic premise that more people were getting their licenses because of an increase in car sales. So if we can find something that gives another explanation for as to why there was an increase in car sales, that would negate the idea that more people will get their driver's license, we will be able to answer the question. So let's take a look at the question again. So the last part is, which one of the following statements, if true, casts doubt in the argument? So let's take a look at A. During the first years after the application and mass production to automaking, transportation by people who traveled without the assistance of carriage or rail exhibited a dramatic increase. So this statement does not weaken the argument. If anything, it would support the fact that more people were driving cars. So we can eliminate A because it is incorrect. Let's take a look at B. People who owned automobiles undertook most of the maintenance and repair themselves, making them cheaper and easier to operate. This question doesn't answer whether or not more people doesn't weaken the argument or cast doubt that because of mass production, more people started to drive. We don't really care about maintenance, so we can eliminate B because this would be incorrect. Let's take a look at C. In the first years after mass production was applied to automaking, automobiles were purchased primarily by people who already owned and drove expensive custom automobiles, but could afford a second automobile for the same money. So the key thing to clue into here is that rich people were buying a second automobile. So if one person is owning 2 cars, more people wouldn't be going out to get their driver's license. There'd just be an increase in car sales. So if anything, this could be attributed to casting doubt on the argument. So this is our correct answer. For argument's sake, let's take a look at the last 2 questions. D says, automobiles that were produced via mass production in the first years after its application were often driven by friends and informal groups of automotive enthusiasts. So this is irrelevant, as I said right here. Very irrelevant. We don't care about informal groups of automobile enthusiasts. We care about whether there's an increase in drivers linked to the increase in car sales. So this is irrelevant. It's what we call on the LSAT writing a distractor. Let's take a look at the last one. As a reflection of the times, it was often difficult for women to drive, as local laws imposed severe restrictions on the operation of automobiles by women. So this is another distractor. They're saying that it's difficult for women to drive. But what we care about is whether there's an increase in drivers, not whether women have the right to drive or not. So this is also a distractor, and we can eliminate that. So C was our correct response. Let's take a look at another one, shall we? Please take a minute to read through the following question. Press pause, and when you are ready to continue, press play. Okay, we will continue. So the question reads as follows. An office equipment leasing firm made the following claim. Owning your own fax machine is actually more expensive than leasing it. Over a 3-year period, a moderately priced fax machine, for example, costs $1,000 to own. Based on the average purchase price of the fax machine and the cost to operate and maintain it, the cost of leasing a comparable fax machine is $900 per year. So effectively, they're saying that this guy is a cheaper option over a 3-year period. Every year, it would cost $100 less to own, which is why they're making the argument that it's cheaper. So the immediate thing that should come to your mind when you're trying to weaken the argument is to try and find something that would contradict the idea that leasing is cheaper to own. And you should clue into the first line that is basically your conclusion. Owning your own fax machine is actually more expensive than leasing it. In order to weaken the argument, we need to find something that says that buying is the cheaper option. So let's see what we can find. And this is, again, one thing that should come to your mind is that maybe if you extend past 3 years, perhaps the purchase price is cheaper. So let's see if we can find a question, a statement in the question that says just this. So the question was, which one of the following statements, if true, provides the most effective criticism of the argument above? So let's take a look at A together. The figures cited above remain proportionally the same even when more expensive fax machines are considered. This would provide support for the claim that owning your fax machine is actually more expensive than leasing it. Remember, this is our main claim up here. So this is what we're cluing into when we're answering the question. So A is incorrect. B, the average lifespan of a fax machine is between 6 and 8 years. Now remember, when we were cluing into the question before, we anticipated this, that we want to see if extending the purchase cost of a fax machine beyond the 3 years would actually be cheaper. Because beyond 3 years, you'd be finished paying for it. Well, as for leasing, you're still paying that $900 per year leasing costs. So this would definitely provide criticism. So B would be the correct response. But for argument's sake, let's take a look at the other three. So C, the price of fax machines actually decreased in the last 10 years. This could be true, but we're only concerned about current prices as is today, because this is when we're going to buy it. So C is irrelevant and incorrect. D, the price of fax paper and electricity may soon rise sharply. This could again be very well the case, but both fax machines, either lease or purchase, are going to use electricity and paper. We're focused on ownership versus leasing costs. So D is also incorrect. And E, buying used fax machines can save money, even though such machines need more maintenance. E could be true. When compared with B, though, B would provide a stronger criticism. And another thing that we know is that if we buy a new machine, it's going to last about 6 to 8 years on average. Whereas if we're buying a used machine, it might only last 1 or 2. And in that case, it might be better to lease a machine. So E, although it has the potential of being correct, B is still the stronger one. And we can eliminate E. That concludes our lesson today. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like us on YouTube. And on behalf of Education 180, happy LSAT writing.